My name is Bonnie. Welcome to my channel. I make interesting cakes, and today I'm going to show you how I made a sculpted bulldog cake from start to finish, kind of my process, my tools, and my tricks and tips and all of that good stuff. So super happy to have you hit the subscribe button, boop, and let's do this.
So this is the setup that I'm working with. I usually have multiple cakes at once. You can see the fox in the background. These heads are made of modeling chocolate. I don't always do that, but there's a reason for it, and I'll get to it in a minute. If you look behind where I'm working, you'll see that I have a printout of the dog to the correct size so that I can use that as a reference as I'm working, which is super, super important. So as I was saying before, I don't need this whole thing to be cake. I have to take into consideration how many servings the client is asking for and how large of a scale they want me to work with. And so I want to account for how much cake I need versus how much modeling chocolate. So for me, as long as it's all edible at the end of the day and food safe, I'm good. They wanted this dog to be life size, so his shoulders and his chest and his neck and all of that are going to be modeling chocolate, as well as the legs when I get to it. So there are a few things that are crucial for me when I'm sculpting, and those are my tools. You can see this tool that I'm working with here. I use this for everything, and I've said it before in another video, but if I had to pick one tool and one tool only to sculpt my cakes, I would choose the one that you're looking at right now. It is so versatile in what it can do. It can even create like feather texture. I mean, I've used it to create all kinds of things. So if you're a cake sculptor, if you're wanting to just try sculpting, get this little tool. I'm actually going to list the tools here in just a minute so you can see, because you'll see that steamer right there. That's another favorite of mine. So that yellow tool is the one that I love so much. The one I have right here in the video is white, but it's the same thing. And then that's a makeup brush. It's silicone, and it makes everything so smooth. The bottom circular one is a silicone pad, and you can kind of use that as well. I don't use it as often, but I love all three of those things. And there's only one other tool I used on this cake, and that was it, which is pretty impressive to me. You don't need a lot to create an incredible piece. The trick here to get his body really smooth is to use the combination of the steam to warm the modeling chocolate, and then you can smooth it out with that silicone brush. So I do a little bit of squishing around with the tool that I love, and then I go back over it with the brush and the steamer, and it comes out really smooth. So there are a few things that I like to consider when I'm working on a cake, especially the three-dimensional cakes. The first one is form, because you can't trick the eye with three-dimensional work. If you get it wrong, it's going to translate wrong and it's going to look bad. So you'll see that I pull up my template every now and again, and I'm checking to make sure that things are just right, because if you get this wrong, it's over. It just won't look good. And I'll let you in on a little secret. I may or may not have started over on this bulldog's face about 3 times. I had to trash 2 of them. As a matter of fact, it's kind of sad because there are a lot of cakes that I've had to trash or eat myself just because they weren't up to standards. But standards are important, and you always learn from your mistakes. So I'm just taking that with a grain of salt, knowing that I'm learning and growing each time I have to start over. So form was the first thing that's super important when I'm sculpting. The second is texture, which is obviously what you're seeing me do here. Just a little side note here. I wanted to point out that the great thing about modeling chocolate is you can work ahead quite a good bit, because the cake doesn't have to go on until the night before, usually for me, which here we are. It's finally cake time. I worked on this dog for a little while, a couple of days before the cake actually went on. Just make sure that you protect your modeling chocolate. I use some of that sticky saran wrap or sticky wrap. I can't remember what it's called. But I'm stacking the cake. This is the first time I've ever tried to use gluten-free cake, and it scared the patootie out of me. I'm not going to lie. It was super delicate and crummy. Even though it was cold, you always want to sculpt with super cold cakes, almost frozen. As I'm working, in my head, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he looks like a turtle. Because he is really stout, but his back is like, whoa, you know what I mean? So in a minute, you're going to see me start to carve out of it just to try to make him not look so ugh. Um, did you note that wooden spoon? Yes, I beat my little animals. Oh, that sounds terrible. But no, it helps you to smooth out the modeling chocolate, and it's necessary. It's very loud and obnoxious, and my dogs don't like it. Bless their hearts. This one liked it, though, because it made him pretty. Actually, it's a she. Her name is Gigi, and she's adorable. And the groom contacted me after this wedding and after he saw the cake, and just his reaction was enough to make me like almost cry. Not even kidding. So these are the things that are so worth it to me when I do this work, because it is a lot of work. So next up is going to be the painting. So let's go back. Let's return to the three important things with sculpting: form, get your shape right; texture, what I'm doing right now. This is the third tool right here that I'm using. I think it's called a pen tool. So I'm using that tool to make tiny little lines and fur all over her, because when you paint her, it makes everything pop. So the final thing is color. And boy, does it make everything come to life. But I must say, the contrast of that wet eye and nose against the dry fur makes her look alive. I hope you love her. She meant a lot to me, and she's one of my all-time favorite cakes. We also take a moment just to appreciate those little teeth. Oh, my goodness.